Welcome back. All right, so about 3 years ago, actually about 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I did a video on Pekka Rinne after he reached 300 wins and discussed some stuff. So I'm going to discuss his career now that it's finished, and he is more noteworthy, I think, now than he was a few years ago. A few years ago, a lot of it seemed to be the whole Pekka Rinne is just too good right now kind of meme, and now I think we're far enough removed that quote will live forever. But I think we're far enough removed that we can now take another look. And, Rinne, the remarkable thing with Pekka Rinne is he's drafted in the 8th round, 258th overall, a round that no longer exists. So, if he hadn't been drafted by Nashville, if we'd had a draft the way we do now, either Nashville would have drafted him in the 7th round, because it's possible that they just thought, okay, well, we'll draft this guy late, because nobody else scouted him. Or it's possible they just went, well, we'll take this guy. So, Rinne was really a smart pick, 8th round, and shows that you can get goalies late who can be steals. But, yeah, it wasn't known to be a steal right out of the gate. 2005-2006, not long after being drafted, he plays 2 games with Nashville, finishes 1-1, 900 save percentage, 3.8 goals against average. Not a lot to write home about there, right? Not a huge legend yet, but we'll get to that legendary status. So 2007-2008, because 06-07 he doesn't play a game for Nashville. He plays the one game in 07-08. Doesn't allow a goal. So save percentage is perfect. Goals against average is perfect. And he's probably left shrugging and going, I don't see what the big deal is. I shut them out all year. 2008-2009, he becomes the starter for the Nashville Predators. 52 games, a record of 29-15-4. 917 save percentage, 2.38 goals against average. He was 4th in Calder voting that year. So he's getting a lot of attention. Almost getting 30 wins as a rookie will do that for you. His save percentage is solid. 2009-2010 plays 58 games. 32-16-5 record, 911 save percentage, 2.53 goals against. He makes his playoff debut. 6 games played, a record of 2-4. 911 save percentage there, 2.68 goals against. So save percentage stays the same. He doesn't get the wins in the playoffs, but Nashville's not really known as a team that's going to be a playoff favorite. Not really. Closest you're going to get is the year they went out and they rented Forsberg and they had these star players and it just didn't work. But Rinne wasn't the starter that year anyways, right? 2010-2011, 64 games, 33-22-9 record. 930 save percentage, 2.12 goals against. They get out of the first round that year. He goes 6-6 in the playoffs with a 907 save percentage, 2.57 goals against. And I remember the Canucks beating Rinne and the Preds that year in the playoffs. He's a second-team All-Star, and he's second in Vezina voting that year. So that's the first time he was a finalist for the Vezina. Will not be the last. 2011-2012, 73 games, which led the league. 43 wins, also led the league. 18 losses and 8 overtime or shootout losses. 923 save percentage, 2.39 goals against. He plays 10 playoff games, has a record of 5-5, 929 save percentage, 2.07 goals against. You can't state they lose in the playoffs because of Rinne. A 929 save percentage kind of precludes you from being able to say that. He finished 3rd in Vezina voting that year and 7th in the Hart. So he was 7th in Hart voting. And really, at this point, kind of a legendary status if you think about it that way. Like he was working his way up, right? Well, he has a setback in 2012-2013. It was a lockout-shortened season. He played a ton. 43 games, 15, 16, and 8. Those 8 overtime shootout wins, or shootout losses, I should say, lead the league. 910 save percentage, 2.43 goals against. Non-nominated for the Vezina, kind of a rough year for him. 2013-2014, he only played 24 games that year. Ends up 10-10-3, 902 save percentage, 2.77 goals against. So, it's just a down year. You could just sort of shove that one aside and say, all right, well, we'll start again next year. And what a start he got in 2014-2015. 64 games, 41 wins. So that's the second out of 3 years that he has 40 wins. 17 losses and 6 overtime or shootout losses, 923 save percentage, 2.18 goals against. So he's back. In the playoffs, they go 2-4. They're out in the first round. 909 save percentage, 2.74 goals against. And second in the Vezina voting. So he's a Vezina finalist for the 3rd time in 5 years. 40 wins for the 2nd time in 4 years. So he's in that upper echelon of goaltenders. Although there was a lot of discussion about how good he was or how good Nashville's defense in front of him was. And, well, Nashville's defense makes his numbers look better than they are. Well, 2015-2016, he played 66 games that year, 34-21-10 record, 908 save percentage, 2.48 goals against. In the playoffs, now this is the year that this channel starts to garner some attention. So I kind of liked Nashville in that first round, and they got out of it. And I remember Doug McLean, when was the last time Nashville did anything? Maybe they watched him. So in 14 games that year, in the playoffs, he goes 7-7 with a 906 save percentage, 2.63 goals against. And again, his save percentage was down. So I was left wondering, well, is he really going to be a top 10 goaltender? Does Nashville need something else to get over the top? Well, 61 games in 2016-2017, 31 wins, 19 losses, 9 overtime or shootout losses, 918 save percentage, so save percentage comes back up. His goals against stays about the same, 2.42, meaning he's facing more shots than he faced the year before because his goals against doesn't change, but his save percentage goes up. In the playoffs, of course, this is where you get the tremendous run. The only blemish on that run was he couldn't win in Pittsburgh. He was fine at home. In Pittsburgh, just Nashville as a team struggled, and Pekka Rinne really struggled, and the fans got on him for it. He ends up 14-8. He actually leads the playoffs and wins that year, as well as losses, because for Pittsburgh, of course, it's a split. Starts between a few different guys to get him to the Stanley Cup. That was the year it was Matt Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury. It was the year before that they had Zatkov. I believe Zatkov was 2016. He got a win for Pittsburgh. But he ends up 14-8, 930 save percentage, 1.96 goals against average. So that's why that meme exists of Pekka Rinne is just too good right now, because his numbers were intimidating in the playoffs going into that Stanley Cup final. And there was good reason to think that a Nashville team that was very much an underdog squad might have a chance. To the point where the summer after that ended, I was wearing a Kings jersey locally here, and somebody yelled out the window of their car, "This is Nashville country." I haven't heard that since, other than ironically. I haven't heard it since. 2017-2018, he finishes 42-13 and 14. 42-13 and 4. I'm looking at it going, can't be 42-13 and 14. That's more than the games he played. He's not that good. He got 2 decisions in the same game. 42-13 and 4, 927 save percentage, 2.31 goals against average. In the playoffs, he goes 7-6 with a 904 save percentage, 3.07 goals against. He is a first-team All-Star, and he wins the Vezina Trophy. So 3-time finalist and a 1-time winner. And tremendous season he had, at a point where we're kind of going, well, when does that fall off happen? He's into his mid-30s now, right? Well, 2018-2019, it kind of sort of does. He ends up with 56 games, 30 wins, 19 losses, 4 overtime or shootout losses. Again, he can't have 2 decisions in the same game. At 918 save percentage, 2.42 goals against. Staying right around 2.4 in goals against is kind of what he does throughout his career. 6 games in the playoffs, 2-4 record, 905 save percentage, 3.09 goals against. So Nashville, who were on this high in 2017-2018 and they won the President's Trophy, things are kind of starting to fall a bit in 2018-2019. And coming out of that series in 2019, it definitely appeared that UC Saros was going to end up getting his chance. As great as he was in 2017, there were great concerns in 2019 about some of the goals that he was allowing in that series. So 2019-2020, he plays 36 games. So that's cut back his work load at that point. 18-14-4 record with an 895 save percentage, 3.17 goals against. 2019-2020 was a very interesting season for the goaltending for Nashville. Both goaltenders had stats that basically mirrored each other almost the whole season, and then Saros got better. And by the time you get around to the pause, Saros had established himself as the better goaltender. So when they came back and they played in the bubble against Arizona, Saros was the guy. And so this is where the discussion becomes one of, so how long does Rinne stick around? Because we knew his contract was going to be up this year. This year, and what turned out to be his final year, he is 100% the backup for UC Saros. Plays a lot for a backup. 24 games in a 56-game season. 10-12-1 record, 907 save percentage, 2.84 goals against. The interesting thing is, his stats get better, his win-loss record doesn't. So Saros is getting the wins. For Rinne, just some tough breaks along the way. He ends up winning the King Clancy Trophy this year, of course. Greatly deserved by Pekka Rinne. At his retirement now, 683 games played, 369 wins, 213 losses, and 75 losses in overtime or shootouts. 917 save percentage over his career, 2.43 goals against. In the playoffs, 89 games played, a record of 45 and 44, so one game over 500. 914 save percentage, 2.49 goals against. Again, his goals against stays between 2.4 and 2.5 quite a bit. That's pretty much the sweet spot for him, and the save percentage of 917, that's pretty solid. So Rinne's career is very good. And then the question becomes, so where does he stand amongst Finnish-born goaltenders? So in terms of wins, he's number one. 369, which is 50 more than Mika Kiprusoff, who had 319. Kari Lehtinen had 310, and Tuukka Rask is sitting at 306. We aren't sure how many more years Tuukka Rask has, or whether he's going to play this upcoming season for Boston, or if he's going to play at home. Games played, Pekka Rinne leads there with 683. Mika Lehtinen, or Kari Lehtinen, sorry. Mika Lehtinen, not retired. Kari Lehtinen is 649 games. Miko's also not a goaltender. Mika Kiprusoff, 623 games played and goal. And Tuukka Rask, 560. Save percentage all-time, Tuukka Rask leads there, 922. UC Saros, 920. Is really quietly putting together a pretty solid career himself. And then you've got Antti Ranta also has a 920, and then there's Pekka Rinne's 917. Points by a goaltender born in Finland. Lehtinen with 28 assists. It's one of those underrated skills for him was his puck handling. Tuukka Rask with 17 assists. Pekka Rinne, of course, a goal and 14 assists. Yes, he's a goal scorer, and he's got that over all the other goaltenders from Finland. And Antti Niemi with 12 assists is also on the board. Shutouts, Pekka Rinne leads there with 60. Tuukka Rask 52. Kiprusoff had 44. Lehtinen had 38. But the big question mark is, so between Rinne and Kiprusoff, I would personally say Rinne over Kiprusoff. I think Rinne was better over a longer period of time than Kiprusoff, but I would totally understand why people would take Mika Kiprusoff in this argument. Kiprusoff, a one-time Vezina winner, same as Rinne. 3-time finalist. Now, for Rinne, he was a 4-time finalist, including the win. One-time Hart Trophy finalist as well for Kiprusoff. Now, for Rinne, he was 7th in Hart voting in 2011-2012. That's as close as he got to a Hart Trophy, was 7th in voting. And that was 2005-2006. The Kiprusoff was a Hart finalist, and that's the first year Rinne shows up with a couple of games in the NHL. So again, for me, I would put Rinne ahead of Kiprusoff overall, but it's not by much. Both of them had a Stanley Cup final appearance as well. Their careers very similar to one another, but to me, again, the difference is that Rinne, I think, was better for longer than Kipper, but I get it. And for Kiprusoff, in his defense, he was stuck in a San Jose system where he wasn't being given the opportunity he would have elsewhere if he'd been traded out of San Jose earlier. So totally understand that argument. There was also the lost year of the lockout. So again, that's a debate we can continue going forward. But for me, the best, I would give that to Rinne. I would also put Rinne right now ahead of Rask, but just by a little bit. And again, that's also an argument we can have with Rask, who's also won a Vezina Trophy. Finnish goaltenders are pretty good is the bottom line of all this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.